Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. We're waking up with watches, and everything you see here is in stock. Reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions regarding any of these watches. Let's open up with what might be the perfect Royal Oak chronograph. 38 millimeters white gold, a limited edition of 100 pieces with an ice blue dial, launched in 2020. Now, the 38 came back in 2019. That's the year everyone remembers the Code 1159, but AP had a bumper crop of cool Royal Oaks that year as a backup plan, and it's a good thing they did. Traditionally, the Royal Oak chronographs since the late 90s were 39 millimeters, so bringing it back in 38 millimeter case size answered a lot of calls for the original case to come back. This is a little bit smaller, but infinitely more solid in its construction. This was a late 2020 release for the 2021 model year. This example was sold in 2020. Throw it on the wrist, beautiful. 48 millimeters lug to lug, thin, easy, fits under a cuff, very solid. The finishing on the bracelet, the bezel, and the case is the jewel-like detailing that you expect of a Royal Oak. And the dial, a lovely two-tone in two shades of blue with white gold hands, indices, and numerals. You can see the bezel, a rounded octagon inspired by a vintage diving helmet. That's actually where Gerald Genta got the shape. What look like they might be screw-down pushers are actually just shouldered, making it easy to operate the watch. Yet with a true screw-down crown here, the 50-meter water resistance has to be taken seriously. Throwing it into the dark, no shortage of lume. And then the movement is a Frederic Piguet 1185 doing business as the Audemars Piguet F. I want to say it's the F385 they call this. And so the watch has a 40-hour power reserve, vertical clutch and column wheel, unidirectional winding action, 37 joules, quick set date, a very thin movement, just under 5.6 millimeters thick, a true hand-finished 5-position adjusted high horology movement. It's the same movement that was used in the original Royal Oak 39, as well as several generations of Vacheron Constantin overseas chronograph. So a hand-and-glove fit of a great movement into a great watch. This is an awesome piece, and frankly, I prefer it to the 41. The 41 wears like a 43. This 38 wears more like a 39-40. So I always say size down when choosing a Royal Oak, and you will not be disappointed. Okay. Let's take a look at something that's often requested on a revival basis. I would say that no Cartier watch launched in the 2000s gets more retroactive love from male collectors than the Roadster. Automotive inspired, streamlined, and, as they would say, chopped, dropped, and sectioned. It's a watch that captures the spirit of hot rods and sports cars in the 1950s. So you've got this tonneau-style case, this little cabochon crown. Here's an unusual version that I call the sportiest of the Roadsters. It is the Roadster S. Now you can see right here the watch featuring stainless steel, a 2892A2 automatic movement in top grade. You've got 100 meters of water resistance, an ADLC that is amorphous diamond-like carbon-coated matte brushed bezel, and then a polished steel case, plenty of lume, 100 meters. It even features the quick-release system that debuted on the Roadster when it launched back in 2002, a system later borrowed by other Richemont brands. Cartier Roadster, a quality, thin automatic movement with quick-set hacking and a 42-hour power reserve. You can see the detailing of the bezel beautifully executed, and then a strap that echoes the design of the Roadster bracelet. Now, this watch is at least nominally 39 millimeters in diameter. That's the distance across, not including the crown guard or the crown. And it's quite thin, easily fitting under a cuff. It's about 46 millimeters lug to lug to give you a more accurate idea of how it actually fits. It's definitely a men's-sized watch, though women could wear it if you're comfortable with a slightly oversized style. You can see the crystal is cambered like the case, which is a wonderful refinement I love to see, as it's not a cheap or easy thing to implement in series production. You have blackened hands for high contrast, and down at Roman numeral 7, the Cartier secret signature. Okay, rockin' and rollin' now. We take a look at FP Journe and what might be the ultimate FP Journe, the Chronometre Optimum. My favorite Journe model came out in 2012, and it was Journe's homage to classical chronometry, the most accurate mechanical watch he knows how to make. So remember, the Elegant has a movement made by a contractor. This is made by Journe, and it's mechanical. This is the boutique edition in 42 millimeters with a full factory bracelet, giving it a wonderful range of unusual features that in combination combination make it extraordinarily scarce. Those features simply being the Chronometre Optimum, a very rare, hard-to-get model, the 42, which is the more sought and the less common. It features the boutique edition coloration of a black and gold dial with a rose gold case. That is exclusive to FB Journe boutiques and Espace. And then a bracelet that, purchased as an accessory, costs 5 figures. So to get all these features is an incredible rarity and an opportunity for someone who doesn't want to wait several years to get one at retail. You can see the remontoire, the constant force device operating under the dial. Power reserve is 70 hours, though for the first 45 hours, the remontoire constant force device operates. And so you get constant force to the escapement. The idea is that you wind at the same time every day. Now, the remontoire is also attached to an unusual counterclockwise rotating deadbeat seconds display. We've got 2 barrels in parallel, a solid gold movement. You can see that the watch features a polished steel bridge for a distinctive escapement. It's a natural style escapement, so double direct impulse with unlubricated titanium wheels. 2 wheels directly impulsing the balance. No Swiss lever in this escapement, modeled after Breguet's natural escapement. We also have 6-position adjustment, which is uncommon on Journe watches, and an overcoil hairspring, which is generally only featured on watches that are strictly defined by their chronometry. So, twin barrels in parallel, remontoire constant force, double direct impulse, 6-position adjustment, free sprung, overcoil, and a movement that is large, 33.6, I believe, in diameter, made of solid gold with a gold dial, gold case, gold bracelet, gold clasp, and gold movement. The feeling of weight in the hand is absolutely incredible. Speaking of FP Journe, here's something that he designed back when he was a hired gun movement engineer in the 90s at a company called THA. Along with Denis Flageolet and for a period Vianney Halter, Journe was making movements for big brands, and this 045MC is a column wheel oscillating pinion manual wind chronograph that he created for the original CPCP Tortue Monopusher in the Cartier collection launched in 1998. A lot of people don't know about the Tortue XL Monopusher, however, which is what we have right here, a much larger version of the original. It features the exact same high-grade movement with the column wheel, manual wind, a high degree of decoration for a Cartier watch, and then the oscillating pinion clutch, which is impressively seamless in that it jumps into action without jumping into action, engaging as seamlessly as a vertical clutch system. You just press and hold with an oscillating pinion. Because the pinion has very fine teeth, there's very little play in an oscillating pinion clutch. Now, taking a look on the wrist, you can see it is significantly bigger than the other Tortue. As a result, if you loved the original CPCP and you want the same machine inside and the same lines, but you don't want a tiny watch, this is going to be the choice. And it's got that incredible Flageolet Journe Monopusher column wheel caliber inside. I always like to offer something accessible on this show, and in addition to the Roadster, you can see we have this spectacular Breitling for Bentley GT. This is a great watch that was made in the early to mid-2000s and is one of the best of the Breitling for Bentley series. You can see the dial. You might be able to see that it's a lustrous burgundy lacquer. I don't know whether you could see that there are sparkled metallic elements inside it, along with these concentric pattern chrome metallic sub-registers. It's a great looking watch, and it's not too broad across the wrist. You can see there are recesses in the case that allow the bracelet to be close hauled to the case and then have a full range of adjustment. There's a little hole on the side covered by a little cap. That's actually the cap to the differential. You can see this is a more sophisticated mechanism than the standard Navitimer slide rule bezel. It's great for multiplication and division, and this one works backwards compared to a standard Navitimer because this watch is associated with land sports, such as the 24 Hours of Le Mans, where Bentley has won repeatedly. I think Bentley has 6 wins at Le Mans, with the last in 2003. I think it was 6. And you can see that although this is a 44, it wears well on my wrist because it's short across the wrist. Not too big, but 100 meters water resistant, fully loomed, and powered by a chronometer grade Valjoux 7750. It is the full package, featuring those turned dials and the knurled bezel that are evocative of Bentley motor cars. Attention to detail is excellent too, as you can see that even the calendar discs have been printed burgundy on white. A really great watch, and one of my favorite favorite Breitling for Bentleys. It features the rarely seen Bentley-specific speed bracelet. So at first glance, this might look like the pilot bracelet, but the proportions of the links are a little bit different. And it has a clasp that was easily the best Breitling clasp before Journe arrived. You can see how internally you have the ability to change the mounting point by moving the spring bar, but then you also have a little sliding system in 2 different notches, kind of like a Rolex EasyLink, that allow you to take it in or take it out and snap it into place to fine-tune the fit. A really, really nice watch, and I can give you the approximate age of it too, because that's how Breitling bracelets work. That is the 47th week of 2007. And the speed bracelet went out of production around 2008, so this all lines up. Breitling watches also have a week and year of production for the case in between the lugs, but the bracelets almost always correspond very closely. The watch is loomed, and I'm going to be clear that the watch is pretty well loomed at that. This is a watch that has it all. All right. This is a watch that's difficult to reconcile because typically you see a full gold 44mm oversized sports watch and your first thought is, well, that's very Hublot, isn't it? No, it's not actually. And I have to say, this watch is like a bodybuilder who also has a degree in physics. So it's basically Dolph Lundgren. This watch right here is both Geneva Seal and a COSC chronometer. And on top of all of that, it features dial-side Geneva Seal level decoration so you can enjoy the goods up front. This is the Pulsion Chronograph, a 2012 launch from Roger Dubuis. It's 44 in diameter, and you can see all in red gold. It features this extravagant sapphire cap that extends not only over the dial, but out to the edge of the bezel too. And you can see how the sapphire sits on top of the bezel screws. I remember something like this at Audemars Piguet in 2018, and they were proudly telling me it was the first time a brand had ever extended the sapphire out over the bolts of the bezel. And I didn't want to break it to them, but no, it wasn't. And because the bezel is sapphire capped, you can loom it with no danger of the loom getting broken off. The sapphire protects it. Once again, 100 meters water resistant. This is a real sports watch, and while it's big, I could actually envision a world where a wrist not much larger than mine wears this quite well. It has a curvature to the case back, so lug to lug it doesn't feel or look as big as you might expect, and it's not as thick either, at about 14.7 millimeters thick. The movement is gorgeous. In fact, let me pull this strap, just undo the clasp so you can get a better look at this Roger Dubuis RD680. Now, Roger Dubuis heavily integrated in the early 2000s under Carlos Diaz. And so everything from case making to movement making to things like hairsprings and oscillators were taken in-house. So here you can see we have the RD680. It's a micro rotor automatic that is column wheel vertical clutch and Geneva Seal. What makes it special is that the vertical clutch is actually visible. See it right there? You can see the pincers that lift and drop the meshing wheels that engage and disengage the vertical clutch. And then we have the column wheel next to it. And you can see this movement is big at over 30 millimeters. It is Geneva hallmark. You can just see officially certified chronometer on the case back sapphire. The decoration is extraordinary, and it lives up to your expectation of Geneva Seal. Everything about it, from its depth to the finishing of the metal parts that are steel and the metal parts that are brass, absolutely gorgeous with no compromise whatsoever. And it's a lovely watch because normally you get a lateral clutch to make a movement more beautiful, but it's not as smooth as a vertical clutch. A vertical clutch, though, is generally hidden under mechanisms, so it's kind of ugly. This allows you to have a visibly beautiful vertical clutch, so you get the advantage of both aesthetics and the efficiency of function. We'll wind everything up so you can see the watch in motion. And you can see that the running seconds and the chronograph minutes feature smoked sapphire registers, which is a really cool look. The watch has a 48-hour automatic winding power reserve, and it is just a stunningly unexpected feat of high horology watchmaking. A full deploying clasp with trigger release, and you can see the case is surprisingly nuanced in its detail. This is anything but an orthodox shape. It's all on a rubber strap that looks and feels great. And you can see that awesome and beguiling sapphire cap over the entire face of the watch. That is the Geneva Seal chronometer certified 100-meter fully loomed Pulsion chronograph from Roger Dubuis. If you want an even harder core sports watch, then the de Bethune DB28GS Grand Bleu is for you. Launched in 2019, it is a reimagining of what a dive watch can be. So this is 105 meters water resistant. It's about 13.3 millimeters thick, maybe 13. And then it has the spring-loaded floating lugs that will conform to the size of your wrist. Now these are between 54 and 51, so that full range gives you a lot of adjustability. The case has been engraved with microlight engraving, which you will also find on the dial side, as well as on the case back and the movement reverse. Now you can see the mechanism that underpins the power reserve indicator, which hides off to the side. It's 5 days manual wind, and by the way, you cannot accidentally overwind this watch. 1, 2, 3 shock protection springs, that's triple a parachute. That was designed to make this watch so robust that not only can you dive with it, but we've actually subjected this system to tennis at the professional level, and it has survived. The watch features static lume, it's true. That's passive lume by Black Badger. But it is the dynamo lighting that backlights the rotating bezel that allows you to use this dive watch to the fullest. Now, it runs off the barrels, but you can see there's a minute repeater governor that slows down the discharge so you can keep it lit when fully wound for about 1 minute. What's really cool, too, is that there's a blocker mechanism, so you don't wind up running it down to the point that the watch stops. It will actually deactivate the lights with about 24 hours left to go. It's also one of very, very few center-second DB28 models. You can see the anglage on the bridges, the mirror finishing, the fire-blued titanium. You can see the polished screw heads, the mirrored and rounded full bridge for the balance. Let's go through all the patents. Hairspring design, patent. Balance design, patent. Triple parachute shock protection, patented. Twin self-adjusting barrels, patented. Floating lugs, patented. The lighting system, patented. When you buy a de Bethune, they have integrated everything from the balance to the dial to the movement to the case. They make it all in-house. You are paying for engineering and investment. You are not paying to buy toys for the owners. And I say that as the employee of a company that owns de Bethune. Trust me, I know for a fact from the inside the money goes back into the company. And if anything, I would say they're going upscale for 2025. This watch is a great example of how the watchmaking leader of de Bethune, Denis Flageolet, thinks differently, even when considering something as fundamental as the dive watch. If you love this or any of the watches you've seen today, please reach out Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.